This is just a record of where they were mustered on the 26th of December, 1836 here at New Echota. And this is just a smattering of the things that's in there. But here he orders them to build a hospital, January 30th, 1837, Special Order number 10. He says Captain Derrick. Now Captain Derrick was placed in command of those two companies. So Captain Buffington initially was under the command of Captain Derrick because he was the senior captain. And he said, you'll immediately prepare and set apart a house in each company of the command as a hospital for the reception of the sick, until a suitable building can be constructed for that purpose, which will be erected, as soon as practicable. Names Dr. Fullwood, who was the surgeon who would select the hospital steward. It didn't say who that was, but it turned out to be in Buffington's company, a man named Smith, Simeon Smith. And then they had some problems. Had a little hog stealing here in around New Echota by some of those men. So this man, John Greenwood, who was a resident nearby, lost one of his hogs. Apparently, John Greenwood was nobody to mess with. He went out and did his investigation and knew who took his hog. And it was Private James A. Hope of Captain Buffington's company. He said, I have to request, sir, that you will investigate the facts of the case and cause justice to be done to me. I am prepared to prove the guilt of the man when I have whom I have accused. And if you will name a time and place, my witnesses will be forthcoming. Doggone it, you didn't steal people's hogs here. So I reckon he went out and paid Mr. Greenwood for his hog that he took. They must have had him a barbecue or something. And then, of course, in young men in the military, you always have disciplinary problems. Here's a couple that just happened to be together. April the 19th and April the 20th here at headquarters in New Echota. The first one, Special Order 68, says that Private John Gordon of Captain Derrick's company, being charged with mutinous and disorderly conduct, will be closely confined under guard until a court-martial, general court-martial, can be convened for a trial. I don't know what he did. I never did find what he did. And then the next one, Special Order 69, Lieutenant Hetzel, who was on Wool's staff, was sent to do an inspection of Captain Buffington's command because they apparently were taking and hoarding corn. I guess was feed for the horses. And they were taking it and holding on to it. I don't know if they were selling it or sending it home or what they were doing. So then after this, there was indeed an inspection, and he found about 16 bushels of grain corn that these men had confiscated and hidden. Can you imagine such things going on in a military organization in 1837 in New Echota? And then some of the things that they had to do, they had a lot of work to do. They had to store, you think about each of those men had at least one horse. So that would have been probably 160, 170 horses, plus oxen, plus sometimes mules. They mostly used oxen, by the way, to pull their heavy wagons and carts. But it took a lot of corn and a lot of fodder to feed those animals and keep them working. And so some of the men, that's pretty much all they ever did, was haul forage and collect forage for the horses. And so here, this Special Order number 72, General Wool instructed Lieutenant Clayton, Warren Clayton of Buffington's company, to find 12 efficient men. He wanted efficient men, not just anybody. Don't all commanders and company owners want that, to erect a fodder house. Now, interestingly, Lieutenant Clayton did not carry through that because the next day he sent him out on a military patrol, and he was gone for several days. So apparently somebody else took charge of building the fodder house, but I never did find any more on that. And then they were having other problems. Some of the men were living off post, which was a violation of orders. I can only imagine where they might have been living. Probably with either they found them a place to live because it was more comfortable than the military post, or they may have met someone because that was a problem that allowed them to stay there. So the first one, the general's upset because they're violating order number 17 and they're living off post, and he don't allow that here for probably disciplinary reasons and others. And the second one is Special Order number 84, they've been losing horses. The horses have been escaping. So you can't have that. So he's pretty ticked off about this, and he's saying, you know, not only they're going to make sure that the pens for the horses, the stables for the horses, are going to be secure, but by George, they're going to watch them. And they're not going to just go off and leave them and let the horses get away. So I don't know how many got away. I don't know if they recovered them all or whatever, but it's obvious that they had some horses to get out and get gone, and it caused them some problems. And this was a huge problem for them, as you can imagine, because it was almost impossible for them to keep a large number of horses ready for service at all times, because they had to be shod, which was hard to keep done. So they would appoint 2 or 3 blacksmiths. So the blacksmith shop was going all the time because they were shoeing horses and doing all these other things. So the general, when he'd order a detail, he would order a certain number of horses to be shod and to be kept shod and ready to go for that hard service. Because that covered tremendous distances. In some cases, the couriers on horseback could cover 50 miles a day. It's remarkable how far they would go. And then I stuck this in here to show you because, you know, the U.S. Army, the War Department back here was really careful about how they spent money. Oh my goodness, if we could do a little of that today. But anyway, Special Order number 89, they sent Private Bates of Captain Buffin's company without delay with dispatches to Major Delaney at Ross Landing. Now, you know, it's kind of hard for us to stop and think that they didn't even have a telegraph then, in this age of tweeting and texting and so on. You know, everybody driving down the road with a cell phone in their ear. These folks had to carry it by hand and deliver it to somebody. So they would send them on dispatch duty, and they might cover 120 miles in 3 or 4 days, there and back. Did it often. And then at the bottom, you see he instructed him. He said, after which he will return without delay and report to General Headquarters. He will take receipts for his expenses. So that's what this is. All of them are in Murray County. It's got the date. It's got the signature of the person. Most of this is food for the soldier and forage for his horse. But he's got them all here because he wanted to get reimbursed. And if he didn't have those receipts, he wasn't getting reimbursed. One of these I found interesting. One of these couriers who went on a really long dispatch service stopped and got his horse shod on the way back. So I guess he wore his shoes out and all that riding he was doing. Pretty interesting. All this is there, and it's in original in the archives. And then had some legal matters to deal with. And by the way, pick up the mail. That was extremely important because what happened here was Lieutenant Thomas C. Lyon was ordered to proceed to Cleveland, Tennessee, to attend to a suit for damages against Captain James Morrow whilst engaged in the service of the United States. After which he will return and report without delay to General Headquarters. And then he went, oh, by the way, run by Athens there and pick up the mail, if you would, and bring it back. Because obviously that was extremely important, those dispatches, for the general to try to keep up with folks and what was going on. And then I just labeled this CSI Cherokee Nation because this involved a murder. It's in the book, by the way, in great detail. 4 men were accused of murdering a Cherokee. I can't begin to pronounce his name, nor will I try. And General Wool never spelled it the same way twice.